Black Superman hears the screams. A man is falling and his life is in danger. Our hero unbuttons his shirt, revealing the iconic S on his chest. Black Superman is ready to save the day. But then he sees who it is that's falling. A Donald Trump supporter, still wearing a MAGA hat. This isn't just a comic strip. It's an essential question detonated in just 5 frames. What happens when the hero recognizes that the person needing to be saved is someone who wouldn't save him? Someone who would rather see him deported, discredited, or dead. This is Obi Arisukwu's comic. And in those 5 quiet panels, it holds the exact moral fracture at the center of the latest Superman blockbuster success and the firestorm it unleashed. The immigrant hero, the darker-skinned savior, the outsider, now asked to serve the very empire that is attacking other outsiders. But this isn't just about one cartoon, one comic strip, or one film. It's about the structural pattern they both activated and revealed, about the myths that an empire tells itself and the fault lines that reveal mythic pressure points. It's about the refusal to play savior for systems that wouldn't spit on you if you were on fire. And yet, the moment Black Superman sees the red hat of the bigot, he rebuttons the shirt and the cape stays folded. We speak with the creator of the comic that broke the minds and exposed the hypocrisy of the very people who cry free speech and comedy is legal again. That is, of course, until the joke was on them. MAGA launched a campaign to get the comic strip removed from social media, just like their campaign labeling the latest Superman film woke, trying to cancel it before it even came out. But judging by the box office numbers, and judging by the views Obi Arisukwu pulled after Elon's Twitter flagged his work as hate speech, it's clear what the enemy meant for evil has once again turned around for good. Let's go.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to patreon.com/VPD show and support the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Meet Obi Arisukwu, a first-generation Nigerian-American cartoonist, animator, and storyteller whose work blends sharp cultural commentary with unmistakable heart. This comic was just 5 panels, a black man, a Superman emblem, and a decision. Save the man falling from the building or don't, once he sees the man is wearing a MAGA hat. Obi posted it on X and it immediately took off with over 1 million views and 33,000 likes before Elon's platform slapped it with a hateful conduct label and shadow banned the post. So Obi reposted it. That second upload, 2.2 million views, 86,000 likes, and over 6,000 retweets.
I knew it was going to be a banger because first of all, when I wrote it, I was laughing. So then when I finished drawing it, I was laughing. And I know most of the time when I laugh at my own, like when I laugh out loud at my own drawings, knowing that I already know what the drawing is, already made the thumbnail, wrote it, sketched it out, all that kind of stuff, and I still laugh at it, that's when I go, oh, this is going to be great. So when creating this comic strip, I knew that Superman was coming out. That's my favorite superhero. I was really excited about it. So when I knew it was coming out, I said, okay, what can I do to make this comic strip about Superman, but also land? And so a lot of times my comic strips, I try to do it where the punchline is really, really strong. I'm about to get to a phase in my comic strips where they do feel more Sunday comic-like. However, certain things like this one, I was like, how do I really make it hit? And I was like, if Superman does the opposite of we think he does, especially with knowing my audience and knowing who my audience likes and doesn't like, I felt like the best surprise would be for him not to save somebody with a MAGA hat on. Because we all know Superman will save anybody. But this Superman isn't.
This Superman sees the MAGA hat on the man he could save, and he chooses not to move. This single act of stillness triggered a firestorm. Not because it was cruel, it's a comic strip after all, but because it represents the denial of a moral performance that oppressed people are always expected to put on. Obi, as an artist who has chased his dreams into animation and storytelling, understands what it means to be asked to save the people who mocked your dreams, then blamed you for succeeding. His comic book doesn't scream, it whispers a question. Are we still obligated to rescue the people trying to burn us? And that question is blasphemous to those who believe in the supremacy of their own fragility.
I know when I got a lot of blowback from this comic strip from the MAGA side of things, and they were like, Superman saves everybody, and even not even MAGA, I had comic book people saying, I understand what you're saying, but it's not the Superman, this and this. And I'm like, go back to my comic strips. My comic strips aren't about, following the rules and stuff like that. That's part of the joke. The part of the joke is doing things that are out the norm or doing things that are unexpected. I had a comic strip where I was Adam and I had Eve next to me, and we're naked. So we're in the Garden of Eden, and we're naked, and Eve was like, "Let's go get the apple back there." And I say, "Nah, I don't think we should get the apple. It's not right. This and this." And all of a sudden, Usher out of nowhere pops up on the scene and starts singing to Eve. And Eve's like, "Oh my God, it's Usher!" And I'm like, "You know what? Let's eat that apple." Right? Like that didn't happen in the Bible, right? Adam didn't tell Eve to, like, none of this stuff happened, and so that's just part of the humor of things. But again, going back to the MAGA base, they can dish it out, but they can't take it. And they saw this as an insult to them, right? Because it hits them hard that people don't like them, right? It hits them really hard that people do not like them.
This is a phenomenon that we see everywhere, and it's something that I want to title the burden of virtue loop. It is the belief that oppressed people must always remain kind, always remain peaceful, always be patient, even when the powerful are gleefully cruel. It is the trap of being asked to be the bigger person by people who never made space for your full humanity to begin with. Obi's comic punctures this logic simply by saying no, a refusal that isn't hate, but discernment. It's in this moment that we see the true hypocrisy of privileged people. We see the hypocrisy, indeed, of empire itself. They absolutely want our strength. They want us to be strong, but only when it serves them and only if it saves them.
In the original post, I don't even know if you can see it because it got flagged, but if you were to see the things of, again, saying Superman don't have a father, I see, and that's why Superman can't be black, and being called a monkey, and the Man of Steel, but still is spelled Steal. And then people call me the N-word, people spelling out the N-word. It was just, and I was like, this is why we don't like y'all, right? Because this is the first thing y'all go towards, especially when you're against something and something is racial. And they do it trying to trigger us. I don't get triggered by it because, again, I know y'all gonna say it to my face. I know you won't. Like, somebody even created a comic strip mocking my Clark Kent character, in which Superman is holding the same MAGA guy in his arms while he's kneeling on my neck like I'm George Floyd. I didn't want to post it and say, "Hey, look at this is going on," because I don't want to give those people a voice, because that's what they want. But what I did notice in that image is that Superman says something in that comic strip where he's like kneeling on my neck, and it's in Spanish. And that, or whatever it is, I believe it was Spanish, but that threw me off because I said, I triggered you so much that you made a comic strip about me, and you're not even in America. That made no sense. But I'm happy that I got you, back to your computer to draw, and I inspired that, right? I'm happy for the arts, but that just really puzzled me.
Comedy is legal again, Elon Musk tweets, but only when it's punching down. Obi's comic was satire. It used exaggeration, reversal, and amazing timing, all classic tools of the comedic craft. But because the punchline landed on MAGA, not on trans people, not on immigrants, not on the left, it was called hate. MAGA memes about drowning liberals in helicopters circulate freely, but a cartoon about a hero choosing not to save a racist? That's a bridge too far. What Obi proved is that laughter is welcomed so long as it comes at the expense of the marginalized and so long as it buys you into the dominant crowd. Obi, like all great comedians, didn't just try to make people laugh, he made them see. And the people who hate being seen will always mistake clarity for cruelty.
Especially with all the vitriol that they spit. And I was like, this is the thing that gets flagged. And even in my video, I had to show an example. I shot SpongeBob. And there's blood squirting out his pores. I shot SpongeBob, right? And because that comic strip was about me stealing the Krabby Patty formula. And I'm like, out of all the things that I've posted, this is what gets flagged. And I was like, of course it gets flagged. It's Elon Musk. It's what he wants. We already know he boosts the voice of the right wing, right? Because we've seen where people have been called the N-word, and not even in my comments, but we've seen where other people have been called the N-word and other things have happened, and they try to flag it, and X is like, nah, that doesn't violate our guidelines. But this guy following in a cartoon did it.
Obi's comic didn't contain a slur, it didn't depict violence, it wasn't threatening, but it got flagged for hateful content. Why? Because it exposed the truth too plainly and too cleanly and too close to the surface. That's what systems of power call hate. Anything that exposes the contradictions they're trying to hide. Obi's art wasn't flagged because it violated the rules. It was flagged because it revealed who the rules actually protect. And by flagging the comic, Elon's Twitter tried to kill the moment quietly. But when Obi reposted it, naming the censorship directly, the second version went twice as viral. Sometimes in the digital age, when you attempt to suppress something, you inadvertently put a spotlight on it.
After my comic got flagged and it got blocked, the very next day, I said, hey, I posted this comic strip with sensitive ass MAGA, got it flagged so you didn't see it, so I'm reposting it. Have a nice day. And I ended up getting 86,000 likes. And so I was like, appreciate it, because I was able to use that as fuel to get people to see, why did this get flagged? And now it's kind of like, I appreciate it, because with doing that, I gained a couple more thousand followers, got more impressions than this. And I'm also to a point where I'm not really worried as much about following and things like that, because I told myself that I want to get a certain amount of following, especially like on Instagram, in order to sell a cartoon project. And once I did it, I kind of like fell back on it. And then I started seeing that social media, it plays a game with you where, one, they want to make it a full-time job that you're on here. And also they restrict things and they push things, they change the algorithm up, all that kind of stuff, to the point that I'm like, I don't want to play the game anymore. I just want to share my art and share my work. If the followings do come from it, that's great. I'm more so just like, hey, I want you to enjoy this and see what I can get out of it. Yeah.
Overcoming adversity is something that Obi Arisukwu is very familiar with. And considering all that he's been through, dealing with MAGA was light work for the brother.
What I realized, I honestly had a come to Jesus meeting about a couple of months ago, because back in, 2021, I believe, I suffered tendonitis in my drawing hand. So I couldn't draw for an entire year. So for people who follow my work, they realize there's a gap of no artwork, illustrations. I couldn't draw anything. I could barely write. I had to hire somebody as a writing assistant to write what I vocalized to them. That's how bad it was. I couldn't even type. I could barely drive a car. And so now that I recovered, I'm about 80%, 85% where it allows me to draw, do these things, that I was trying to become the best artist, right? My mindset, I was like, let me become the best artist ever, kind of thing. And one that's kind of hard. We have so many things going on. You can't really dedicate yourself towards that craft. But I also realized that I meet a lot of fantastic artists. I follow a lot of fantastic artists who I personally believe they're way better than me. on every level, all the strengths. But many of those artists aren't successful, right? They're still struggling to make it. They're still doing things. Because they're just struggling to make it, they undervalue their worth. And I realized that success doesn't come from being the best unless you're an athlete, right? When you're creative, honestly, success comes from being the biggest. Whether it's music, whether it's acting, whether it's, like I said, artistry, photography, whatever it is, because we've seen musicians or artists or actors who aren't that great, but they're the biggest stars in the world, right? Or they're the biggest whatever in the world. And I have to change my mentality to saying like, hey, instead of trying to be the best, how can I become one of the biggest? And with that being said, I'm like, okay, do I continue to practice my craft to get stronger? Yes, I do. But I'm no longer in the mind state of, okay, this has to be the best piece of artwork, or I have to be the best artist in the world. I have to realize how to become the biggest. And I realized that because my art is good enough, I lean a lot on my creativity and my storytelling. And I think that's what kind of separates me from a lot of artists who are struggling. Again, they're great. They're fantastic. It's just one of those things that we got to kind of switch our mentality, especially as creatives. You want to be known as the creative force behind you, but sadly, this world doesn't value creativity as much as we want it to.
Obi Arisukwu, breaking the brains and the frames of MAGA one comic strip at a time. This is how you can support his work.
If you want to follow me, support my work, you can check me out on Obi Aris. That's OBIARIS. That's my Twitter. That's my Instagram. It's also my TikTok. Like, follow, share, those kind of things. I'm not asking anybody to buy anything. I'm not doing those things. I just want you to share and enjoy my work. That's pretty much it.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to patreon.com/the BPD Show and support the Benjamin Dixon Show.